just alright.
Singen ist heilig, Ree. Und du solltest es nicht tun, nur weil es jemand von dir verlangt. Aber am allerwichtigsten ist, dass man dich mit Würde behandelt und mit Respekt.
Du bist was Besonderes, Ree. Du hast ein Talent. Sie nennen dich Genie.
Wie alt ist sie?
Erst 10, aber ihre Stimme wird noch kraftvoller, Schätzchen. Wie viele Alben hast du gemacht? 4. Und kein Hit.
Ich will, dass du dich konzentrierst und belanglose Ablenkungen vermeidest.
Schätzchen, finde Songs, die dich bewegen. Wenn du das nicht schaffst, kommst du nicht weiter.
Ich muss etwas ändern. Ich möchte singen, was ich singen will.
Oh my God. My story, I guess, will be the same as everyone else's. That means she's always been there in a huge influential way musically in my life, even unconsciously. So down to the point of filming, I didn't realize, like, oh my God, the Amazing Grace and the church songs that I grew up singing in church was Aretha Franklin's renditions and versions. I knew a lot of the commercial records, but to know like the imprint and the presence she's had musically throughout my entire life, even unknowingly so. So she's always been a blueprint, down to the fact when I auditioned for American Idol, my audition song was Share Your Love With Me by Aretha Franklin.
Absolutely. I think that I've directed a lot of musicals. I love music. And one of the things that I think I brought with me into the making of this film was wanting the songs to play longer than I think you usually get in movies about music. And so I wanted to structure the storytelling so that songs could play longer. The lyrics of the songs could actually tell you more about the character and the story. And, also I love rehearsal. I love making, things, and in the movie, you see a lot of them trying to figure out songs. Aretha figuring songs out with her musicians in the studio, in her home, because that's what being a creative person is like, it's about, discovery.
I thought it was a great way. I thought it was multifaceted. I thought there was a lot to play. I thought he was, a great character. I think him being the romantic lead and the villain at the same time, just attracted me to showcase all that I can do and embody a complete three-dimensional character. Well, when I met with Liesl Tommy, who did a brilliant job with this movie, I expressed to her I didn't want to play the bad guy. I didn't want to play just an abusive husband. I wanted to play a damaged person that's trying to love another damaged person, and their intentions are good, but somewhere along the way, that damage creeps up and takes over. And as she gets bigger, he gets smaller. And she was like, but I want to make sure that they fall in love. Oftentimes in these abusive relationships, you just think that, oh, he's just beating her, and you're like, oh, why don't you just leave him? It's not that easy. So we wanted to invest in the love and how much they loved each other and that connection, what he would do for her. And then see the downward spiral. As she progresses, he falls apart.
Well, I think that if you are going to show a character's triumph, you have to show the trauma. You have to show the struggle, because that just makes those moments of triumph so much more satisfying, and everybody has that. Nobody just lands on this planet and it's smooth sailing. I mean, there's some people, I guess, but they don't make movies about them. So, the thing about Aretha is it's not so much about the dark things that happened in her life, but it's how she overcame them. That to me was what was fascinating.
Ooh, baby, it felt very close to home at times. And those are actually some of my favorite scenes. Like the Dr. King memorial. Like I couldn't help but to feel it and be affected by it. Thinking of her, of having to still be a light, knowing that in her life she was so close to this person, and then what he represented during that time, and still having to step up and lift everyone else up when she needed to be lifted up. Like how can you not be affected by that? You know what I mean? So it helped made it more true and personal to me to be able to portray.
It's funny you asked that because he says his demons. We don't know enough about the real Ted White to know what his demons are. So what I did was I read this book, Pimped by Iceberg Slim. And most pimps are guys that have real mommy issues. Daddy issues, but mommy issues. So that's what I gave Ted. He has mommy issues. He was abandoned. Some woman broke his heart. He has all these issues, these underlying issues. At the end of the day, he's nothing but a little boy trying to create this monster to protect the little boy. But at the end of the day, he's just a little scared little boy.
Yes, that was challenging because I'm a fan and I've sang her songs as myself, the vocalist Jennifer Hudson, but now it requires the actress that's portraying Aretha Franklin. Okay, so what can I do to make it different from me just simply singing her songs in tribute to her or just singing her songs versus portraying her, which was a challenge to figure out. And then so it took the dialect coach, which is Tom Jones, and I, where it was very technical to dissect our instruments to say, okay, we discovered our instruments are built differently, but they can lend to the same things. Aretha sang from the top of her head, where he says, I sing from my feet. And then to want to add, not to imitate her, but to add different nuances of things that we know are her signature sounds. Every singer has a signature that they do. You know what I mean? So to add those little inflections in there that's familiar to all of her fans, stuff like that. You know what? It seemed like, at least for us, now that I feel like I could say on her behalf and mine, it feel like they go hand in hand, and it's a gift. You know what I mean? And for us, it started out in the church. So when we're singing for a higher purpose, and we know it's not us, but it is God working through us. And it's been the music and the faith has been like the guide and the driving force, and the base of who we are as people, musicians, beings, you know what I mean? In every way. It's like your purpose or your calling.
Listen, I grew up in South Africa during, apartheid, and my family immigrated to the States when I was a teenager. So those were formative years for me. And I grew up, hearing a lot of, I grew up in an activist family, and I related to that part of her life very deeply, because when you grow up as a small girl hearing that kind of conversation, you internalize it. And so everything I do is political as an adult, and that's the same with Aretha. And I just thought that was such an important part of her story that people didn't actually know, I don't think. And the thing that I also really admired about her was growing up in the civil rights movement, which is a nonviolent movement. It was a powerful nonviolent movement. And then, she kind of came into her womanhood during the Black Power movement, which is a different idea about how to fight for your rights. And she went with the times. She pivoted, which is quite unusual, because to go from, a civil rights nonviolent sensibility to, to the Black Power movement was challenging for a lot of people. But you know, she was a real one in the real world, and I think she responded to what was happening in a real way, and I love that about her, because you have to be the Black Panthers felt that they were at war, and the Black Power movement was about not pretending that the white establishment was going to give you anything if you asked politely.
All right, then. Thanks so much for taking the time. I think that's it. Yeah.
Thanks, Jose.
Bye. Have a great day.
You too.